We want to go right now back to City Hall where Mayor Lisa Brown is about to speak.
Good evening, everyone. Are we good? Good evening, everyone. Mayor Lisa Brown, Mayor of Spokane. I wanted to give you an update on the situation that's unfolded today and this evening. This afternoon, former Council President Ben Stuckert called me and informed me of some individuals detained by ICE and his intent to prevent the ICE vehicle from leaving the facility. I asked him what he had fellow protesters with him wanted to achieve. We discussed legal assistance. I did call Attorney General Nick Brown and discuss the situation, made him aware of it, asked him to investigate options, and connected him to Ben. Ben did inform me that members of his group intended to peacefully protest, and they intended to stay at the facility until they were arrested. I made it clear in my public statement, as well as to Mr. Stuckert, that Spokane Police Department would remain in compliance with the Keep Washington Working Act, that they would endeavor to keep the peace, and that they would enforce Spokane laws. The City of Spokane has a commitment to upholding First Amendment rights. We believe in the right of peaceful protest. And the safety of our community members is always of the utmost importance. As we were discussing with the team, law enforcement, other members of the cabinet, trying to get a clear picture of what was occurring and discussing the best way to de-escalate the situation, we learned that vandalism was occurring, an incident with respect to the ICE vehicle, other vehicles parked near the property, some vandalism on park property, that the crowd was growing and that tensions were escalating. I made the decision that the safest course of action was for Spokane Police, not ICE, to try to safely disperse the crowd, try to convince the protesters to leave, and if not, to follow through with arrests of any violation of Spokane Municipal Code. I'll leave it to Chief Hall to discuss what happened on the ground, but as the evening progressed, as the crowd grew, as the crowd resisted several orders to disperse, I issued the curfew with ample time to let people leave the area. We also wanted to make sure that people could leave the stadium safely, the soccer game, and make sure there was plenty of time for media notifications to go out so people would understand what was occurring. I'm relieved to share that so far our reports are positive in that no serious injuries have been reported. I know there is tremendous fear amongst our local immigrant and refugee community. My heart goes out to families who are separated or are fearful of what might happen to them in their workplace, or as they proceed about their lives in Spokane. That's why I've been coordinating with some of our local partners to understand how we can be supportive of those communities, because in Spokane, we all belong. We have many wonderful contributions that have been made by refugees and immigrants over decades in Spokane. And we're coordinating with state and other partners to understand how to comply with state laws, as well as federal and the Attorney General's office on the evolving legal situation that we're in right now. With that, I'll take your questions.
Mayor Brown, Amanda Rowley with CRIM 2. We covered one of the larger protests in 2020 for the George Floyd protests. There was damage and violence, tear gas used. Can you describe for us what tactics, or even this is a question for Chief Hall, what tactics are being used to disperse this crowd to prevent damage and really escalating to another 2020 protest?
Yeah, I'll allow Chief Hall come to respond to that, because I understand there has been misinformation out there about the tactics that were used. So.
There was a report early in the day.
Chief Hall, why don't you go ahead?
Is he going to be able to answer
Yeah,
that
he's
right
going to,
now?
yes, right now.
Hi, in answer to that question, we paid very close attention to what the crowd was doing. We had conversations with the crowd, and in particular individuals, and what we saw was, as the mayor pointed out, an escalation in criminal behavior, not by everybody in the crowd. Certainly there were peaceful folks demonstrating and utilizing their First Amendment rights. There were also people in the crowd who were committing crimes, both state and municipal code crimes.
What sort of charges could these individuals be facing, and how many arrests have been made so far?
There's been over 30 arrests made so far. They are predominantly misdemeanor arrests for, like I said, for municipal code violations such as pedestrian interference. There was some criminal damage that was observed. A host of different crimes. Like I said, most misdemeanors. I believe there was one felony arrest, but I'm not positive.
Chief, could you also, I understand from some of our council members that there are some rumors out there about use of tear gas, use of rubber bullets, things like that. Could you clarify that, please?
There was no tear gas was administered. What you saw out there, if you were out there, was smoke, inert smoke. No, that is not considered a chemical munition. However, we did use pepper balls. Not against individuals. It's what we call area dispersal, where we shoot it at the feet of the individuals. The pepper goes up into the air, and it behaves much like pepper spray. And we only did that because the crowd refused to move back after multiple requests to move back and give space for the officers to work.
And rubber bullets?
No rubber bullets.
Because we saw someone who had an injury on their back, it looked like from being struck by a rubber bullet or something to that effect. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about that, but I can confirm that no Spokane police officer fired any rubber bullets.
Have you heard about other agencies?
I have not.
Are we
Mayor?
aware of any arrests made by any agency other than SPD?
We were the lead agency. We had the good fortune of having our regional partners assist us. The Spokane Police Department had over 185 officers at this event. And we also had the assistance of the Spokane County Sheriff, as well as our other regional partners who came in to assist in order for everybody to be safe. That was for the safety of the folks who were involved in the demonstration, as well as the safety of the officers and the safety of the folks who were being detained.
Were you in communication with ICE or any federal agencies?
We were in communication with the individuals, the ICE agents who were inside the building, yes.
Mayor Brown, you talked about Spokane's commitment to keep Washington Working Act. We've seen the city council support that many times. I saw Spokane police letting ICE vehicles in and out of the cordoned off area, and that seems like coordination and help.
Well, the commitment that we have is to maintain access to public property, and violation of that is blocking that property.
So it was about property, like letting them in and out of the property.
The blockading of public right-of-way in Spokane is a violation of Spokane Municipal Code.
Okay.
And I think that one of the key things that was part of our communication was ample notification of people in the crowd of if something they were doing was, in fact, they were being asked to move or was, in fact, a violation. And I just want to re-emphasize, I don't know the total size of people that came through the area during those several hours, but the vast majority were peaceful, expressing their viewpoints, as they have every right to do, and compliant also with officers. And that is what we hope for, that people have that right. There's serious concerns about federal policies. We want people in Spokane to feel free to express those concerns. And we also want to keep everyone safe.
Can you comment on the, like, I know this is a tough situation for everybody, but the idea that, like, you may have been, like, sort of adhering to the letter of the law by, you know, dispersing people based on municipal grounds, but this was a protest that was designed to keep neighbors in, you know, who are about to be removed from our city. So you may have been, like, adhering to the letter of the law, but breaking the spirit of in Spokane we all belong by making it easier for ICE to take people out of the city.
I think it's pretty clear from the observations I had of what was occurring there, and frankly from my communication throughout the afternoon with some of the protesters, that they did not expect that they would be successful in stopping ICE, a federal agency,
Yeah.
from completing their mission. And I think anybody who's observed that agency and its actions and the actions of the administration would reach the same conclusion.
Yeah.
And they communicated with me that they intended and desired to engage in an act of civil disobedience that would result in arrest.
There was a rumor earlier in the afternoon that you were in direct communication, or somebody from your office was negotiating with ICE about the release of people. Is that true, or
No,
did you guys have conversations?
That's completely false.
Okay.
I've never had any communication with ICE.
Okay.
I was in communication
With
fairly
Sutter?
extensively with Attorney General Nick Brown, both describing the situation, getting his perspective on potential legal options, if any. And he then went and consulted with his team and got back to us. So that did take a period of time. And I did connect him to Ben, who was, at that point, the self-described leader of the group of individuals that were surrounding the vehicle.
Yeah.
Mayor, did the actions by President Trump in calling out National Guard in California affect any of your decision-making and how you responded today?
I think that we're all aware, I think there's hardly anybody who wouldn't be aware of the situation that unfolded in Los Angeles and the deployment of National Guard troops and U.S. Marines to that city. I have been in contact with the U.S. Conference of Mayors that has taken a very strong position that, and I think as we demonstrated this evening, that the city is capable of conducting interactions with peaceful protests, utilizing our methods to try to de-escalate them and to keep the public safe. And it was fairly clear to me that if there was no Spokane police presence, that could be used as a justification for federal National Guard or other federal agents to come in and take control of the situation. And I had confidence in Chief Hall, Chief Oberg, who was also monitoring any situations that were occurring in conjunction with this event, that our team would do their best to communicate well with the group. They knew some of the individuals personally, had met with them before, and would do their best to have the officers conduct themselves in appropriate way and do their best to come out with as good an outcome as possible. And we're very hopeful that, for the most part, that was achieved.
Do you know if the detainees have been removed and or on their way to
I read an announcement that they have left the building. I don't know where they're going.
An announcement from ICE? Or who did you read that announcement from?
Who read that? It was read to me.
It was just a local press release.
I think it was just local press so I'm not sure where it came from.
A quick question for Chief Hall. Were there any assaults of an officer tonight? And generally, one of the complaints that I heard a lot from the crowd is that officers were out there in TAC gear. Was that necessary? Was it necessary for officers to be in full tactical gear, wearing gas masks? Was there any opportunity to have de-escalated this without that?
The initial officers who arrived were are regular officers in regular uniforms, and that can be seen in a multitude of postings. As the situation continued to escalate and non-compliance continued to grow, we called in tactical teams to provide support for those officers. It's also those tactical teams who provide the chemical munitions that are necessary if that non-compliance grows into assaultive behavior. I can tell you, I'm not aware of any assaults that were reported by the officers. Just watching some of the footage, I think technically there were assaults, but the officers used an enormous amount of restraint and understood the emotion that was behind this particular event.
We obviously saw the sheriff's department there in some amount of force. There were also rumors, just in the interest of dispelling or confirming disinformation, there's also rumors that the Kootenai County SWAT team was coming in. Did you guys catch any reports of that?
Yes, they responded to our request for mutual aid.
Okay.
All of our tactical or SWAT units, both from the county and the city, were tied up on this event. Had some other critical incident occurred anywhere in the region, that would have been their responsibility.
So they were sort of waiting in backup in case something else happened.
Yes, sir.
In another location.
Based on some reporters that we had at the scene, it seemed like it was quite a while before there was police presence on the scene. I'm wondering if you regret not being there earlier to maybe lower the tension a little bit earlier?
Well, is that directed to me specifically?
You were the chief, I think.
Yes. Well, we were in conversation about the significance of the timing, and we were also in conversation with protesters, with city council members, with people on the ground there, just trying to get as much information as possible. It was definitely our goal to not have the situation escalate, but we were well aware that it was likely to escalate. We knew there was another protest already planned at 7 p.m., and I believe that protest joined the other one. And so the question of timing is definitely something we'll assess. Like any incident that occurs, we do a pretty thorough after-action review and check our policies and procedures and communication strategies to see what worked, what could have been done better. So we will definitely be assessing all those things as we gather all the information we can about what happened at each stage of the day.
To that point, I mean, it's not impossible that this isn't going to be the last time that this kind of protest happens.
Absolutely.
Lessons learned, how you plan on addressing this going
Yeah,
forward?
I think it's too premature for me to say lessons learned yet, but that is exactly the purpose of an after-action review, right, Chief Oberg? She's been very good at making sure that we get those done. Also, Sarah Nuss in our emergency management office. So we'll be thoroughly gathering all the information we can, including, as I said, I was in conversation with people throughout the afternoon just to get a variety of perspectives on what was occurring, and we will do that review and be happy to talk with the press about that as we go forward, because we do anticipate, given what we've heard from the president and his administration, and what we know to be the presence of members of immigrant communities here. We have members of communities that were just learned about the travel ban that will keep members of their families from reuniting with them. So we fully intend to keep discussing, understanding our responsibilities, and also ways in which we can be of assistance.
Just one more question. Mayor Brown, I mean, over our shoulder, we're seeing some protesters trickling in outside City Hall. What is your message to those who aren't following the curfew and maybe causing a muck?
Well, I think if they're outside there, they're outside the curfew zone.
Yeah, right, right.
However,
Groups move, groups move.
yeah, they absolutely do. And I think my message is very consistent. We respect their right to peacefully protest and to be upset about federal policies. I have been that person who has protested federal policies. And that is a right we have. I feel strongly about it. It's the way that some changes have happened in our country, if you look at the civil rights movement. And so totally respect nonviolent, peaceful protest of the public. And I also have a responsibility as the mayor to ensure that our rules, laws that we have in place in order to give people their sense of safety in our community are upheld, that property is not, if property is vandalized, that there should be consequences for that. And so that is a dialogue that we will continue to have with members of the public who are frustrated and concerned right now.
Thank you.
Mayor, Stephanie, Spokane News. I was just wondering, you had mentioned that if protesters are coming down right now behind us, that they're outside of the curfew zone. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, there is a geographical curfew zone, which I am a very geographically challenged person, so I'm going to have somebody else communicate those 4 boundary lines.
Thank you.
Spokane Falls Boulevard.
Go ahead, come on
south.
over, Chief.
Spokane Falls Boulevard to Boone on the north, Howard on the west, to Division on the east.
And that's from 9:30 to 5:30, and also inclusive of Riverfront Park. So that is the geographic area. And there are exceptions for people that are going to work, or to and from work. There are some other legal exceptions. We have legal here. What are the other?
People going home.
Legal,
live in the area,
people who
media.
are going home. This is meant to protect public safety, and we want to communicate that very clearly with people, so that we don't want anybody to unintentionally violate the curfew.
Are there any charges associated if someone is in violation of the curfew or citation? And what's the ramification for not following?
I believe there is something called a curfew violation, but I'll have to defer to legal here, to our city attorney, Mike Piccolo. Mike, do you want to?
So the provisions of the curfew is under SMC 2.02, subsections 030 and 040, and a violation of those 2 sections later in that chapter makes it a misdemeanor to violate the curfew or the declaration of an emergency.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.